Yo, Stephen Hulk, you won the giveaway from last week. Congratulations, and enjoy your Hot Comics list. Another week, another list, another employee of the comic fam. Let's welcome GemMint from GemMintCollectibles, the Gempire, the kingpin, who just went comic books full-time.
What's going on, Comic Tom? I'm clocked in and ready to work, baby.
Comic fam, you know we're here every single week with you chatting about the hottest comics in the world based off of prior week's record breakers. Slap that subscribe button, hit that like button, and if you want to support what we do, hit the link in the description or go to ComicTom101.com to join the mystery mail call. You got 1 day left to reserve your April box. Secure your copy of Ha Ha, number 3 cover art done by Zoe Lucky, and let's hit him with number 10.
Number 10 on the list is the grail of all grails, Hulk 181, the first full appearance of Wolverine. And before we talk about last week's record-breaking sales, we got to talk about that Marvel value stamp.
That's right, the Marvel value stamp. Marvel doing us collectors dirty from way back in the day, incentivizing readers to take scissors to their comic books and to cut out things because they were collectible. Who would have known that a complete comic book in the future would be more sought after by the comic fam? Well, we did and have been for decades. Now, this particular one in Hulk 181, first appearance of Wolverine in full, was from Series A number 54, Shauna the She-Devil. My question to you, Gem, is, do you think that collectors are going to start to shed this negative stigma on the green label, the incomplete copies, because the complete copies are outpricing themselves so aggressively? Are the green labels next?
That's a good point, Tom. It's always been something that we stayed away from. We wanted to avoid green labels or purple labels. We wanted that universal blue. When looking for raw books, you had to make sure Hulk 181 had that Marvel value stamp intact. But as the blue label prices itself out, I can totally see people going for the next best thing, going for those green labels, going for restored copies. Definitely something to keep an eye on.
Especially considering that the 2.5 for this issue back in March went for $2,200, is up in a month 34%, selling for $2,950. The 3.0 selling for $2,600 in March. A month later, up 30%, selling for $3,382. But the 9.6 Gem, the $25,000 record in March, was shattered by an increase of 25%, selling for a new $31,200.
Man, those are some crazy prices. Don't be surprised if we start reporting on record-breaking green label sales. Let's move on to number 9, and we're going to talk about an undervalued blue-chip Marvel key that's not Daredevil 1. We're talking about Strange Tales 110, the first appearance of Dr. Stephen Strange.
We have the first appearance of the Ancient One, the former Sorcerer Supreme. We have his assistant, Wong. We have the first appearance of Nightmare in the Shadows, the antagonist rumored to be in the upcoming Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, which, by the way, is set to premiere March 25th of 2022, as well as being the movie that America Chavez will make her debut in. Let's hit him with that 4.0.
That 4.0 sold for $2,995 in January of this year. It's up 14%, selling for $3,400. Then we got the 6.0. That sold for $5,022 just last month. It's up 61% with a sale of $8,095. But hold up. That 8.0, which sold for $8,600 way back in 2015, it's up 81% with a high sale of $15,600. But Tom, tell me, why is this percentage increase still low?
Consider this, Gem. The 8.0 sale for this issue at $15,600 is about $15,000 less than what you can get a Tales of Suspense 39 or Journey into Mystery 83 for. First appearance of Iron Man, first appearance of Thor. Butch loves them both. That's why he had to jump up right now. But when you're considering the popularity of these characters, yes, Thor and Iron Man may be considered a little bit more popular. I suspect that this book was undervalued largely because Doctor Strange doesn't make his appearance on the cover. And up until recently, we're seeing blue chip keys take off. I'm thinking that this 81% price hike is low, especially considering that there's only 100 graded copies above an 8.0 of this very book.
I definitely think the lack of Doctor Strange on the cover is what kills this book. I mean, it's a backup story and a Strange Tales book. You got Paste Pot Pete on the cover. It's just an unattractive cover, and it kills the collectability of it.
But not for long, I suspect. I'm thinking the winner of that 8.0 is going to be really happy in coming months. just like members who haven't forgotten about Blade. Number 8 on the list, Tomb of Dracula, number 10.
Who could forget about Blade? This is the franchise that arguably saved Marvel Comics from bankruptcy and credited as one of the first good, serious Marvel movies. We know that he's got a new movie coming in the MCU, and we're super excited, along with fans who broke records last week.
We have the first appearance of Blade. We have rumors that Dracula and Werewolf by Night are going to be making an appearance in this upcoming movie. Bronze Age horror fans rejoice. We also have February announcements that are causing spikes because we found out that the playwright and story editor from the HBO Watchmen series, you know I love that show, is attached to do the screenplay for Blade. Let's hit him with the 5.0 because back in January it was going for $760 and that's up 33%, going for $1,010.
We got a CGC 9.0. This was selling for $2,800 just last month. It's up 28%, now selling for $3,580.
And then the 9.2 back in July 2020 going for $2,475, up 64%, selling for $4,050. Now, considering that we are still seeing prices sell very respectively for keys that were boosted up by WandaVision, as well as Falcon and Winter Soldier, we really haven't seen the extent of Disney Plus and Marvel's new play on the collector's scene take effect fully yet. Will this continue? I think that people are underestimating this run, this character, and the Bronze Age horror in its entirety.
The beauty of it is there's still time to jump in. Just like there's still time to jump into our exclusive Red Sonja #1, drawn by my 16-year-old daughter, Jade Hope. You got one more day to back the variant. We got the regular covers, the Virgin, the black and white, CGC 9.8s, and I got to give a big shout out to the Golden Age Guru for sharing the post on his Instagram page. We really appreciate it.
I got a signature series 9.8 on its way, and Jade Hope is going to be doing remarks on raw copies. Comic Fam, hit the link in the description. Support our show. Support GemMint. Support the next gen artist, Jade Hope, the 16-year-old who did this cover. And let's hit him with number 7 on the list. We got some Avengers goodness to report on.
That's right. Is Falcon and the Winter Soldier affecting this Silver Age Marvel key? We got Avengers 4 here, the first Silver Age appearance of Captain America.
We do have the first appearance of Baron Heinrich Zemo, a different one, but still counts, and the first time Captain America was on a Marvel comic cover, because prior to that, he was on Atlas and Timely Comics. Let's hit him with some major record breakers, because this is a major Silver Age key book. Captain America was absent, not just frozen underwater, but in like real comic years, like collector and reader's years, he hadn't been in a comic book for 15 years until this point.
We got a CGC 6.0, which sold for $2,800 in February, up 48%, selling for $4,151.
Now consider this, Comic Fam. Captain America's first appearance in Captain America Comics #1 is largely unattainable. There's under 100 unrestored graded copies in existence to date. So when we report on this 8.5 Avengers #4, it's really the next best thing, especially with a very respectable grade that this is. Going for $5,592 back in August, up 50%. Now going for $8,400. But that's not all. We have some other Avengers books that we gotta hit them with, Gem.
Yeah, these books only had one sale, but they were some big ones, man. We got Avengers 9, the first appearance of Wonder Man, a CGC 8.5, which sold for $1,020 back in 2019. It's up 116%, now selling for $2,200.
We got Avengers #8, first appearance of Kang the Conqueror, 6.5 going for $1,060 back in March. And courtesy of Jonathan Majors, the announcement that he's going to be in Ant-Man Quantumania, up 92%, now selling for $2,040 this month.
And then we got a book that we talked about last week, Avengers #1, with another record-breaking sale. The CGC 6.5 sold for $10,000 in March. It's up 56%, now selling for $15,600.
And now we're at number 6 on the list. And I gotta say, I'm pretty impressed because Hulk 181 was outbeat this week by Hulk 180. We have the first cameo appearance of Wolverine making it on the list.
I would say, what kind of world are we living in where Hulk 180 beats out Hulk 181 on a top 10 list? But I think a lot of collectors out there would say this is as it should be. We got a CGC 4.5, which sold for $995 in March, under the $1,000 mark, no more, selling for now 33% higher at $1,322.
The 5.0 was going for $650 in December, proving that the velocity that this book is on is unlike any other prior to the list, including the next issue of the run, up 54%, now going for $1,000.
And then the 5.5, one little grade bump up, which sold for $800 just last month. It's up 64%, now selling for $1,308.
Now, we told the comic fam about other Wolverine keys to be keeping an eye out on. We mentioned the Frank Miller limited 4-issue series, that issue number 1 being prime for purchasing and speccing on. And when we chatted about it last, it was going for between $400 and $500 in a CGC 9.8. It's been a couple months. And Gem, have you seen prices now?
I have. I hear it's selling for upwards of $1,000. You're going to have to go for the first ongoing title, which is Wolverine as Patch in Madripoor. But I have a feeling that's not going to be affordable for too long either.
Comic fam, utilize the code TOM101 to unlock yourself a free 2-week subscription of the best comic app in existence. We're chatting key collector comics. There's a lot of Wolverine key comic books that you gotta know that I think are way more affordable than some of the ones we just chatted about, such as Avengers 66, the first time adamantium was ever mentioned in a comic book, the metal that surrounds Logan's bones. How come his teeth don't get covered in that metal?
Man, could you imagine Wolverine with an adamantium grill? Anyway, moving on to number 5 on the list, we're talking Daredevil number 1. We've talked about it being undervalued. We've talked about it breaking all types of records, and it's still breaking records. In some cases, almost double.
We have the first appearance of Daredevil, Matt Murdock, Foggy Nelson, and Karen Page making the list. Let's hit him with the 1.0 back in December, going for $1,700, up 45%, selling for $2,464. The 1.8 going for $961 in September, up 95%, selling for $1,876 this past month.
And I would imagine that there's not as many 1.8s out there, and that's probably why we have a lower sale in a 1.8 than a 1.0. But all that means is the next time one hits market, it's going to have some price correction with it. And speaking of which, 4.5s, which sold for $4,111 just last month, that's been price corrected itself with a 46% increase, now selling for $6,000.
There's something to be learned here by Daredevil 1 making the list the way it did and this huge uptick that it's had over this last year, because we were chatting about this book in June 2020 being one that we would likely were going to see a huge uptick with. How did we figure that out? Well, the way that you can kind of spot this is by comparing grades and what they were selling, not to other grades of the same issue, but other blue chip books that are comparable to compare to. So back in 2015, 2016, for example, Hulk number 1, graded at 5.5, had an average sale of $8,000, and it hiked up to $15,000. FF1, during that 2016 timeframe, had an uptick of near $6,000 in the same grade. If you compare to other blue chip books and what their progression has been in the market, and then you see Daredevil 1 laying way lower on the list, well, it gives reason to there being an upcoming price correction, which is what happened this year exactly.
And you got to give Daredevil his props. An original Stan Lee, Bill Everett, and Jack Kirby creation. He had his own movie, pre-MCU, had a successful Netflix show, and now rumored to show back up in the MCU. It only makes sense.
Just like number 4 on the list with Giant Size X-Men number 1. This first appearance of the new team has been outdoing itself seemingly by the week, and the records keep breaking. Let's hit them with the 4.0 back in February, selling for $2,062, up 55%, selling for $3,200 this week. The 9.4 back in 2010, hitting $12,500, up a staggering 129% this week, selling for $16,800. But then there was the 9.6, once going for $18,500 just in March, up 43%, now going for $26,400. And comic fam, you have to stay tuned to the end of the video, because our number 1 on the list is making me feel like these numbers for Giant Size are low.
I think you're right, Tom, but before we get into that, we got to give an honorable mention to the granddaddy of them all, the X-Men number 1, who had a monster sale this week as well. A CGC 8.5 sold for $56,000 in November of 2020. It's up 39%, now selling for $78,000.
We got a huge Marvel list this week, dominating it. Number 3 on the list, we got FF, Fantastic Four, the first Marvel family, issue number 48, the first appearance of Silver Surfer, the first cameo appearance of Christmas Galactus.
And I feel like we're bouncing back and forth on this list from FF49, FF48. 49's got the better cover, but 48 is the first Silver Surfer, and a 6.0, which sold for $2,571 just last month, is up 72%, now selling for $4,410. Then we got the 6.5. It sold for $4,000 last month. It's up 22%, now selling for $4,895. Then we got the big boy, the 9.2, which sold for $8,900 in February of this year, up 116%, now selling for $19,200.
You mentioned it, Gem. Might as well hit him with the FF49 record breaker that happened this week as well. The first full appearance of Galactus in a 4.0, once going for $2,062 back in February, now up 55%, selling for $3,200. And that's not the only Fantastic Four book getting some love over the last 7 days. Issue number 2, the first appearance of the Skrulls, once going for $2,500 back in 2018 for a 4.5, is now selling for $5,040. I suspect it's the upcoming Secret Invasion storyline that we're going to be seeing hit the screen, causing collectors to spend some money.
And for number 2, I'm pretty sure it's the first time that we've ever discussed this book on this list. It's Iron Fist 14, the first appearance of Sabretooth, which was a given. We got Omega Red heating up. All type of mutant books are on fire. It makes sense that Wolverine's arch nemesis gets some love. We got a record-breaking sale in a 7.5, which sold for $379 in December, up 52% with a high sale of $575.
The 8.0 going for $400 in October. That record was shattered this week, up 73%, selling for $695.
And then we got the next grade up, 8.5s, which were selling for $525 in February of this year, up 90%, almost doubling, selling for $996.
Butch is back. He kind of looks like Sabretooth, but I digress because Key Collector dished some really interesting information here on the Hot 10, where all of this information and more is categorized for free for the comic fam. X-Men are the 5th most popular search in Key Collector Comics database, beaten out by only the Hot Keys category, the Trending 20, shout out, the Amazing Spider-Man, and the Spec Deck. People love their mutants.
We know that the mutants are hot. Throughout March, we've seen classic X-Men villain keys get records broken again and again, crossing the $500 to $1,000 mark. We're talking about characters like Juggernaut from X-Men 12, the Sentinels from X-Men 14, and Emma Frost from X-Men 129. Sabretooth has always kind of been an oddball because he doesn't appear in an X-Men title. He appears at the tail end of the Iron Fist run.
And to add insult to injury, the 9.6 broke $2,000 for this issue for the first time ever this week.
And we can't let you go without talking about the 35-cent variant. All the regular issues were priced at 30 cents, but you have this scarce 35-cent variant, which sells for 15 to 20 times more than that 30-cent counterpart.
Back in the day when Marvel was trying to attempt to raise prices in comics, rather than do it all at once and risk a fallout, what they would do is take a small area of the country and do a test market and up the price. So sometimes keys at that particular time were distributed in lower quantities, and those ones have now become grails to this day, such as this issue, as well as others like Star Wars #1.
And speaking of #1, we made it to the top of the list. Make sure to hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you don't miss a video. And let's talk about a book that Tom foreshadowed earlier in the list, a book that we've been dancing around all day. It's X-Men 94, the first appearance of that new team Untitled and Chris Claremont starting his epic saga.
This is nuts, comic fam. These numbers are huge, and let's just get right into it. The 3.5 going for $385 in February is up 136%, going for $910. The 5.0 going for $625 in March now going for an uptick of 124% for 1,400. And I think these prices are low, staggeringly low, because we have a 9.8, once going for $29,589 in 2010, officially price correcting a major mutant key for the first time in a decade. We have the new uptick of 113% selling for $63,000. And let me remind you, comic fam, Giant Size X-Men at 9.8, the all-time record is only $4,000 more than what this record just set.
So what does that mean, Tom? Does that mean that X-Men 94 was just overlooked as an X-Men key for all these years? Or are we going to see a price correction in Giant Size X-Men 1 in a 9.8?
Well, there are only 34 graded at 9.8 X-Men 94s on the census versus 193 9.8s of Giant Size X-Men #1. And when you look at GPA, you can see a total of 31 recorded 9.8s of X-Men 94 since 2006, while Giant Size X-Men shows 146 sales since 2003. There are way more opportunities to get your hands on a Giant Size and high grade than an X-Men 94.
Now, I'm going to play devil's advocate here because I don't think X-Men 94 is really all that much to talk about because you don't have any first appearance of any major characters. I think collectors would much rather have the first appearance of an X-Men or a villain like Sabretooth than they would just a new team in title or new writer. What I think's happening is that it's just trickling down from the X-Men 1 and Giant Size X-Men sales. And personally, I think all this means is we're going to see a monster sale of GSX1 in a 9.8.
Comic fam, I got to hear your thoughts about all this in the comment section below. History is being made every single week. Slap the subscribe button. You know we're going to be here for you next week. And as always,
geek responsibly and stay minty fresh. Nuff.
Nuff. Nuff. Nuff.
Nuff.
Nuff.
Nuff. Nuff. Nerf or nothing.
Nuff.
Said.
We got other videos for the comic fam right here. You can watch either one, or you don't have to. If you don't have time to do it, no obligation, okay? But if you do have time, I recommend one of these too. Also, comment, like, and subscribe. I'll enter you to win a Luke Cage variant of Marvel Legacy Voices #1. Have a great week.